Like there's a group of black women that has attacked Caitlin Clark and her fan base online.
You think the WNBA is all passion, talent, and teamwork? Think again. Right now, the league is in the middle of a storm, and at the center of it is Caitlin Clark, the rookie superstar who's taken the world by storm, but also the target of one of the most shocking attacks in recent WNBA history. Imagine this. A group of high-profile commentators live on a streaming platform, publicly tearing apart Caitlin Clark. And not just her performance, but her entire fan base. No sugarcoating, no polite analysis, just blunt, unfiltered criticism. And the fallout was absolutely explosive. Fans were stunned. The WNBA community was rattled. And suddenly, Caitlin's meteoric rise, her rookie season, her records, her impact on the league, became the center of a heated debate that exposes more than just opinions. It reveals a clash between old-school WNBA fans, the media, and the new wave of supporters who've embraced her from day one. But here's the question everyone's asking. Are these attacks fair? Or are we witnessing a deeper problem? A league struggling with its own success, envy, and maybe even something more complicated? Something that goes beyond basketball? In the next few minutes, we're breaking down everything that happened. The shocking panel, the furious fan backlash, the media hypocrisy, and the hidden tensions that have the WNBA on edge. The story of Caitlin Clark isn't just about a rookie. It's about the future of an entire league. And trust me, you've never seen this side of the WNBA before. It all started on a streaming show called Playback. What was supposed to be a normal sports panel discussion quickly spiraled into something none of the fans expected. Somehow, the conversation shifted, and all eyes were suddenly on Caitlin Clark and her fan base. And when the panelists spoke, they didn't hold back. Not even a little. Their words were sharp, pointed, and downright brutal. They weren't analyzing gameplay or discussing stats. They were personally attacking Caitlin, questioning her achievements, and mocking the people who support her. Every comment felt like it carried a punch, aimed not just at a rookie, but at anyone who dared cheer for her. One panelist went on at length about how Caitlin's fans arrived in the WNBA with sky-high expectations, thinking she would instantly dominate. She pointed out, sure, Caitlin won Rookie of the Year, but she's up against seasoned pros, players like A.J. Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and even her own teammate, Kelsey Mitchell. The message was crystal clear. Caitlin isn't as extraordinary as her fans believe, and everyone needed a reality check. Then came the line that ignited even more controversy. This is a grown woman's game, baby. The implication? That college fame and early hype don't automatically translate to professional dominance. That Caitlin, despite all her records and accolades, was just another player trying to survive against veterans who've been in the league for years. The delivery was dismissive, condescending, and intentionally provocative, and it didn't stop there. After unloading their harsh critique, the panelists quickly tried to move on, as if their words weren't going to cause a storm. But social media doesn't forget. Within hours, clips of the panel were shared across platforms. Fans flooded comment sections, quote-tweeted, and expressed outrage. Some criticized the panelists for being disrespectful. Others pointed out a glaring hypocrisy. The same commentators had rarely, if ever, questioned the league when it struggled for attention. But now, with Caitlin bringing in millions of new fans, suddenly they wanted to tear her down. The tone of the panel was more than just controversial. It was personal. The commentary went beyond criticism of skill or strategy. It targeted perception, fan loyalty, and even identity. It was a blunt reminder that being a professional athlete isn't just about performance. It's about navigating a world filled with scrutiny, jealousy, and sometimes outright hostility. What makes this even more striking is the timing. The WNBA had just completed its most successful season in decades. Attendance was up, ratings were soaring, merchandise was flying off the shelves, and social media engagement was through the roof. Caitlin Clark had become the face of that success, and instead of celebrating it, the panel chose to attack her. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. Here was a league finally thriving, And yet, some voices were actively working to undermine the very player driving that momentum. The streaming incident didn't just highlight personal attacks, it exposed a deeper tension in the league. A clash between the old guard, who may have felt threatened by this new wave of attention, and the reality that Caitlin Clark had become a cultural phenomenon, attracting fans far beyond traditional WNBA audiences, and that's where things started to get really messy. Because this wasn't just commentary, it was the spark that lit a wildfire online. The moment clips of the panel went live, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Fans weren't just upset, they were furious. Social media lit up with outrage, disbelief, and a flood of support for Caitlin Clark. Within hours, threads on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok were packed with comments calling out the panelists for disrespect, bias, and plain hostility. Who do they think they are? One fan wrote, "Caitlin worked her ass off. How dare they talk about her like this?" Another added, "The hypocrisy is insane. They never cared about the WNBA before Caitlin, and now they act like she's ruining everything." The outrage wasn't just casual fan chatter, it was a movement. Clips of the panel were shared over and over, with captions expressing anger, disbelief, and frustration. Some fans dug into past comments by these same panelists, highlighting how little attention they had given to the league before Caitlin's rise. The narrative was clear. Caitlin Clark had brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball, and the backlash from the old guard was nothing short of bitter. But it wasn't only about defending Caitlin's skill. Fans were angry because the attacks felt personal. The comments weren't just, "She's not that good." They were dismissive of everyone who supported her. They felt like an attack on the growing fan base that had helped catapult the league into the spotlight. And that anger translated into a tidal wave of social media engagement. Threads were trending, clips went viral, and debates raged across platforms late into the night. Many fans weren't just criticizing the panelists, they were exposing the larger issue of media hypocrisy. These same commentators had spent years lamenting the WNBA's lack of attention, complaining about low ratings and sponsorships. But now, with Caitlin Clark drawing millions of viewers and transforming the league's popularity, suddenly the attention was a problem. That contradiction didn't sit well with fans, and they made their voices heard loud and clear. Beyond social media, the conversation spilled into forums, comment sections on sports sites, and even fan groups dedicated to WNBA analysis. Some longtime fans admitted to feeling conflicted. They acknowledged Caitlin's talent but expressed discomfort with how quickly she had become the center of attention, overshadowing players who had been in the league for years. But the majority were unapologetically defending her, pointing to her stats, her leadership on the court, and her role in bringing financial and cultural growth to the league. The emotional intensity was palpable. Fans weren't just defending Caitlin. They were defending the idea that a player's hard work should be celebrated, not torn down by jealousy or gatekeeping. For many, this wasn't just about basketball. It was about fairness, respect, and the power of new voices changing the status quo. And then came the memes, the reaction videos, and the passionate debates. Fans dissected every word the panelists had said, countered every claim, and shared every highlight of Caitlin's record-breaking rookie season. Every dunk, every assist, every highlight reel became a symbol of the backlash against unfair criticism. It was chaos, but it was chaos with a purpose. Fans had made it clear Caitlin Clark was not alone. Her achievements, her presence, and her growing fan base were here to stay, and anyone trying to diminish that impact would face the full force of the public's scrutiny. By the end of the day, the incident had transcended mere sports commentary. It had become a social media battle, a discussion about media fairness, and a cultural flashpoint that highlighted the growing pains of a league finally stepping into the mainstream spotlight. The message was loud and clear. Caitlin Clark's rise isn't just inevitable, it's unstoppable. And the backlash from the panelists? It was just the beginning of a much bigger conversation about power, recognition, and respect in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark didn't just step onto the court, She stepped into a league that had been defined for decades by tradition, loyalty, and a very specific type of fan culture. And that's where the tension began. The old guard versus the new wave. Longtime WNBA fans, those who had followed the league through tough seasons, low ratings, and financial struggles, saw things differently than the millions of new supporters who had arrived with Caitlin. For decades, these veteran fans had been the backbone of the league. They had a deep respect for established players, history, and the nuances of the sport. And suddenly, their league was flooded with new eyes, many of whom were here for just one player. Some old guard fans felt threatened. To them, it seemed like Caitlin's presence and the massive attention she drew was overshadowing the players they had followed loyally for years. Names like Breanna Stewart, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aja Wilson, players who had earned respect over seasons of blood, sweat, and tears, were suddenly being eclipsed in the public spotlight. And for some, that was a bitter pill to swallow. But for the new fans, the excitement was undeniable. They weren't just watching games. They were witnessing history in real time. They were energized by Caitlin's records, her dynamic playmaking, and her ability to transform a struggling team into a playoff contender. To them, she wasn't just a player, she was a phenomenon. And they weren't afraid to cheer loudly, post online, and bring fresh energy into a league that desperately needed it. That clash of perspectives created a cultural fault line. On one side, seasoned fans felt protective of the league's legacy, wary of change, and frustrated by what they saw as a sudden shift in focus. On the other, new fans were excited, vocal, and unapologetically enthusiastic, celebrating Caitlin's achievements with the fervor of someone witnessing something special. And then there was the commentary. Some members of the old guard, media personalities, journalists, and even commentators used their platforms to voice that frustration, often under the guise of analysis. They questioned Caitlin's place in the league, criticized her fan base, and sometimes even suggested she wasn't league-ready. But beneath the surface, it was clear this wasn't just about basketball. It was about identity, hierarchy, and the fear of losing relevance in a rapidly evolving league. New fans, of course, saw it differently. To them, these attacks were not constructive. They were gatekeeping. They didn't see Caitlin as a threat to tradition. They saw her as a catalyst for growth. They recognized that her presence was bringing attention, sponsorship, and revenue to the league, benefits that ultimately helped everyone, including the players the old guard admired. And that's where the tension became truly emotional. Longtime fans who had invested years of loyalty felt disrespected. New fans who had just discovered the excitement of women's basketball felt dismissed. The debate wasn't just about skill, it was about who deserved recognition, who got to define the narrative, and what it meant to be a fan in a league that was finally attracting mainstream attention. This generational divide wasn't just in the stands or on social media, it was in the very fabric of the league. It influenced conversations on panels, in articles, and in interviews. Every comment, every critique, and every viral clip became part of a larger struggle. Old fans fighting to protect tradition, new fans celebrating evolution, and Caitlin caught in the middle as both the symbol of change and the target of scrutiny. And make no mistake, this conflict wasn't abstract. It had real consequences. The old guard's skepticism, the new fans' fervor, and Caitlin's extraordinary rookie season collided to create a pressure cooker of opinions, emotions, and controversy that would define the WNBA's trajectory for months to come. In the middle of it all, one thing was undeniable. Caitlin Clark had become more than a player. She had become a cultural flashpoint, a symbol of the tension between past and present, and the lightning rod for a conversation that had been simmering under the surface for years. Caitlin Clark didn't just show up and play, she transformed the league. The WNBA just wrapped up its most successful season in decades, and the numbers don't lie. Attendance soared, TV ratings skyrocketed, merchandise sales hit record highs, and social media engagement exploded. Fans were watching games, buying jerseys, and sharing highlights in a way the league had never seen before. And let's be clear, Caitlin Clark was the engine behind it all. Her dynamic play, her record-breaking performances, and her charismatic presence drew mainstream attention to a league that had spent years struggling to break out of obscurity. She brought millions of new fans into arenas, onto digital platforms, and into conversations that previously didn't exist. Yet, instead of celebrating her impact, some in the WNBA ecosystem chose a different path. The same voices that criticized her on the streaming panel ignored her contributions to the league's record-breaking season. They questioned her talent, her fan base, and even her legitimacy as a rising star. But the numbers told a different story. Caitlin averaged over 19 points per game, 8 assists, led the league in assists, broke multiple rookie records, and helped turn the Indiana Fever from underdogs into playoff contenders. Every stat, every highlight, every win reinforced one undeniable fact. Caitlin Clark had changed the game, and some people simply couldn't handle it. And here's where it gets complicated. Caitlin Clark is a white player in a predominantly black league, and some of the backlash was steeped in this reality. There's no denying that media coverage and corporate sponsorships often favor white athletes, and the WNBA is no exception. But attacking Caitlin personally doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't address the deeper issue, the league's historical failure to adequately promote its black stars. Players like Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and Sabrina Ionescu are incredibly talented, yet too often receive less recognition. That inequity exists, and it deserves discussion. The hypocrisy is glaring. The same panelists who criticized Caitlin's fan base had rarely, if ever, spotlighted systemic issues or celebrated the contributions of established players before she arrived. Suddenly, when Caitlin's rise threatened to shift the narrative, she became the target. Fans noticed, and they weren't having it. Winning Rookie of the Year is impressive. Doing it while averaging 19 points, 8 assists, leading the league in assists, and breaking multiple records? That's extraordinary. Caitlin Clark didn't just compete with veteran stars, she dominated. Yet critics downplayed her achievements, claiming she only got attention because of her race or overhyped fans. The facts are clear. She carried her team, delivered consistent excellence, and transformed the league's public perception. This controversy isn't just about one player, it exposes a league that sometimes undermines itself. Internal conflicts, jealousy, and outdated mindsets clash with Caitlin's rise, reflecting a WNBA at a crossroads. Her success isn't just basketball, it's change, growth, and opportunity for the league. The WNBA can resist or embrace it, but one thing is certain: Caitlin Clark has sparked a cultural shift, and the league will never be the same. Where do you stand? Backlash or progress? The conversation is far from over.